Hello, my name is Kent C. Dodds, and I am so excited to talk with you all about letting AI interface with your apps with MCPs. I have a lot to cover, and so we're going to go through this quick. I know that lots of you are front-end developers. You're building stuff with JavaScript, and we've been thinking about, oh no, what's AI going to do? How is that going to change my job? Well, I think that the future is very exciting for front-end developers, and I have something I think is really going to be the way that we're going to be building apps in the future with this Jarvis future. Now, some of you may not be familiar with Jarvis, and so if that's you, I'm going to have us watch this really quick to give us an idea of who Jarvis is, what this future I'm envisioning is going to be like, and then we can talk about the things that Jarvis does for Tony Stark, Iron Man, here after we watch this video.
I've compiled a Mandarin database for you, sir. Drawn from SHIELD, FBI, and CIA intercepts. Initiating virtual crime scene reconstruction.
Okay. What do we got here? Close.
The heat from the blast was in excess of 3,000 degrees Celsius. Any subjects within 12.5 yards were vaporized instantly.
No bomb parts found in a 3-mile radius of the Chinese theater.
No, sir.
Any military victims?
Not according to public records, sir.
Bring up the thermogenic signatures again. Factor in 3,000 degrees.
The Oracle Cloud has completed analysis. Accessing satellites and plotting the last 12 months of thermogenic occurrences now.
Take away everywhere that there's been a Mandarin attack. That's 2 military guys. Ever been to Tennessee, Jarvis?
Creating a flight plan for Tennessee.
All right, that's pretty cool, right? This is Tony Stark, Iron Man. He's got this AI assistant who can do just about anything for him. So what are the specifics? What did Jarvis do here? So he compiled a database, generated UI on demand, accessed public records, brought up thermogenic signatures, whatever that is. Tony said, take away everywhere there's been a Mandarin attack, so he's doing joins across different data sets. Showed related news articles, interviews, database records, created a flight plan for Tennessee, and handled the doorbell. And my question is, what can we not do that Jarvis did? And really not like nothing other than like maybe accessing FBI data and not for technical reasons. And the holographic stuff that, I don't know, maybe Disney has a way to do that, but not us. So there are some technical things that maybe we wouldn't be able to do. But for the most part, we have the technology to do this stuff. And the thing is, we should have Jarvis. So my question is, why don't we? And we've actually tried. We have Google Home, and we have Siri, and we have Alexa and Bixby. We are trying to do this. But the reason that we're failing so abysmally is because of integrations. It's that on that team to build each one of these integrations, or maybe they make some sort of SDK so you can build your own integrations, but then people have to go in and manually install and configure those things. And so like you know people, and maybe you are this person who just like wires everything up and it's all perfect. And now you can talk to your phone and tell it to do things. But even with that, you don't have you have those individual integrations, but they typically don't integrate with each other. And so what I really want is for all of the different things that we use, some of these are technical things, some of these are regular non-technical people things. I want all of these to be wired together and managed by a single robot. And with Model Context Protocol, we have that capability now. And it's very exciting and awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what Model Context Protocol is historically, where did it come from, and some of the architecture for this. So a couple of years ago, we got ChatGPT, and it blew our minds. We have an LLM, and we've had LLMs for a long time. That is not a big deal. We've been using LLMs for a really long time. Of course, they've gotten better recently, but because of all the investment. But what made ChatGPT so powerful was the host application that wrapped the LLM and made it really easy for people to use, regular non-technical people. And so it was really exciting because it could answer our questions. And of course, again, LLMs, they've been able to answer our questions for a long time. They're just generating tokens, and it may or may not be right, and hopefully that's all getting better. But what made it really exciting was the host application that we added on top of the LLM. The problem was that it couldn't really do anything. So, I mean, you probably remember in those early days, you would copy some code, paste it into the chat, and then you'd ask questions about it. Maybe you're learning about the code, or maybe you're trying to fix a bug or something. And then whatever code it generates, you would copy, paste that into your app, and it would still not work. But this whole like loading context in and then taking the result out was a very manual process. And people would, even still, we build wrappers around LLMs. So we have a specific workflow that we want to use an LLM for. And so we're kind of enhancing the host application to try and make it do stuff. But non-technical people are not going to want to build that themselves. And I don't think that we should have 30 different applications that manage this. In fact, Jarvis is just a single Jarvis, whether Tony is in his Iron Man suit or his car or his house or wherever. And I think that that is the user experience that users want. Maybe Jarvis is focused on different contexts or different personas in different contexts, whether he's your weight trainer or your financial advisor. But I don't know, maybe don't take financial advice from an LLM right now. Eventually, maybe it'll get better. The point is that users don't want to have a bunch of different apps that they have to teach about like their own personality and what they're interested in. And so I don't want to have a bunch of host applications. Instead, I want one application that can do things. And that's where we get into phase 2, where ChatGPT and Claude start adding the capability of calling tools. And in fact, we have even APIs where you can make your own chat application and have some tools in the mix as well. And this works like pretty well, but there's not really a standard way to do it. And all the tools that you're integrating with, you have to build those integrations yourself, or OpenAI has to build those integrations itself. And so if you can imagine, if I wanted to like schedule an event with my friends at a local park, then OpenAI can build an integration with Google Calendar to get that scheduling and maybe Google Contacts, because that's kind of a big thing. There are millions of people who use those services, and maybe it'll be able to integrate with some text messaging platform, because that's also like a pretty common use case. But then to schedule a pavilion at the park, for my local park? No, they're not. They don't have time for every single municipality all over the place. They don't have time for that. So even though it can do stuff, and that's very exciting, it can't do enough. It can't handle those like small town or lower end things that are very specific and niche for specific people. And I want it to be able to do everything. That is what differentiates the Jarvis future that I'm envisioning from the current present that we have with home, like Google Assistant and Siri and all of that, is that they are only focused on like the big services. And with this tools architecture that we get, it's still kind of people can't build their own individual tools and use those with ChatGPT or with Claude. You can sure build your own wrapper and integrate with your own stuff, but people don't want to do that. Again, they want one assistant, and that assistant that they are using is either Claude or ChatGPT, one of the big players, or Gemini. So it can't do enough. So what do? What if we put the responsibility of maintaining the tools in the hands of the people who are building the integration? So that means the developer in my city can, who's already developed the scheduling software for a website, can also develop the capability for an LLM to communicate. To do that, we would need some sort of standard protocol, right? And that protocol is MCP, Model Context Protocol. And so with this, now we can do anything, because whoever is building the MCP server can build it to make it do whatever they want, and then anybody could use it, whether it be in Claude or ChatGPT or wherever else that supports MCP. And this is really, really big. The biggest problem with this right now, as we're talking right now, is that clients aren't really ready just yet. There are things that the user experience that needs to improve to get to where I expect we will eventually get to with this Jarvis-like feature. But this is the protocol that's going to get us there. So if we expand this a little bit to talk about the architecture, the host application wraps the LLM, so that's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini AI Studio, and then it creates an MCP client for each MCP server that it is going to interact with. Right now, this process, this is where I think clients are lacking majorly. You notice Tony Stark didn't have to install any sort of, or configure any sort of apps or anything in Jarvis. Jarvis just knows what he needs to do, and he can find the database and everything. Is very proactive. And this architecture allows for that as well. So we have the MCP client that communicates to the server, and the server communicates to the tools. And the thing that's the real unlock here is that the service provider is responsible for the MCP server. And so this is a standard protocol to communicate between these two things. Each host application is going to manage this communication themselves, but once they manage this communication with an MCP server with just one, then you can have any number of MCP servers. And that is what really unlocks this, because now anybody who builds anything, like every single website, now can have a /MCP that users can connect to. There's authentication and authorization built in with scopes and everything. It's OAuth. And so you can do anything. You can give permission to your AI to interact with your own stuff. So I want to give you a little bit of a view or an idea of what this is like as of today. I actually made this demo a couple weeks ago when I was in London. This is using Claude Desktop, and the experience even from then has actually improved a little bit. But right now I have some tools installed. You'll see I have 17 tools. I have one tool for, you'll see as we go through this. So let's watch this, and I'll pause as we go. First, I'm asking it to write me a journal entry about my trip with my daughter. I wanted it to derive my location and weather conditions from my device location and make a creative story. So first, it determines the location and the weather, because those are going to be part of the journal entry. So first, this get current location from Locationator. This is a local MCP server that I was running at the time so that my device could pinpoint my exact GPS location. And so it's going to grab that location. This is actually the location I was in my hotel when I was recording this video. So you can find out exactly where I was at that time if you really want to. And then it uses that. This is really cool. So it takes the output from one MCP server and gives it as the input to another one. So here's a get weather tool from the weather MCP server that I made. And this is actually a remote MCP server hosted on Cloudflare. And here are the inputs, and it's going to use those to determine what the current location is. This was using the AccuWeather API. So I just had an MCP server that called into the AccuWeather API for this specific use case. And so then it says, okay, I know where you are. I know what the weather's like. I'm going to need those for the journal entry. Now we need to authenticate to the EpicMe MCP server, because that's the journal entry. We're going to do authentication here. And so I'm going to say, okay, allow. And you'll notice that every single time we are being prompted here, do you want to run this tool? And this is really useful, especially in the early days where there's not a lot of trust and reliability and everything. We're very early in all of this. And so anytime the LLM is saying, hey, I need to perform this action and make this change in the world, I think it's good for us at this point, especially to have a hand in how that happens. So I'm going to say, yeah, allow for this chat. You can authenticate my email. And here it says the user's been sent an email. So this is the response for my MCP server. But users in the future, I don't think will actually need to bother looking at the inputs and outputs. The LLM or Jarvis is just going to say, hey, this is what happened, which is pretty interesting. It has interesting implications for translations as well. This could be output in English, and then I could be talking to my LLM in Japanese, and the LLM just knows how to do that translation, which I think is pretty cool. So I sent the validation token. At this point, I actually didn't have email set up, and I was running this locally. So I just grabbed the validation token from the terminal output. I provide that validation token, and it now validates who I am. It knows, oh, okay, so this is you. Great. We're going to allow that for the chat. Then that sends it over to the MCP server, and now I'm validated. So now it's going to use the create entry tool. And I didn't tell it to do any of this stuff. I just said, hey, make me a journal entry based on my location and the weather. And it, of course, it's going to write the journal entry for me. so maybe it's escaped Utah's mountains. Like that's something I want to do. Are you kidding? kidding? I love Utah's mountains. But anyway, it was, so it was able to determine my location, and from that it got the weather. And it determines which tools to call based off of what it needs to do from a simple prompt. I think that's really cool. And those don't have to be the exact same server or anything. It's multiple servers all working together. So now it's going to add some relevant tags to this journal entry that it created for me. So that is pretty neat. And this is going to continue until it finishes, and then I eventually say, hey, like, thanks a lot, but this is fake. And actually, here's something interesting. I said, hey, can you show me the story? And then it retrieves the story as JSON, but then it outputs it as Markdown. And this is another really interesting and cool thing. I think that in the future, we'll be able to have UI that is generated by the MCP server or sent by the MCP server that our applications will be able to display. Because sometimes having text makes a lot of sense, but if you're saying, hey, get me directions to the nearest taco stand, you want to have a map, and you want to have like your current location and which direction to go at any given time. So I definitely think that is in the future, and that's going to be really cool. But it's important to know that what the MCP server sends back to the client is not necessarily the format that it's going to be displayed in. And I think that's pretty cool. So then I say, hey, go ahead and delete this and log me out. And it does that. And it's pretty awesome. And I really think that this is an awesome future that I'm really looking forward to. I think by building out MCP servers and exposing our services to users, they have a much easier way or interaction model for using our services. We don't have to build a bespoke UI with all the accessibility concerns or anything. Anybody can use the chat application they're already using, and that turns into their personal assistant. And I think that's a really cool thing. I'm very much looking forward to this future, and it really is here. It's happening right now. And I think that actually just today, at the time I'm recording this, or yesterday, I found out that ChatGPT is experimenting, the website is experimenting with supporting MCP servers. Claude.ai, their website, also supports MCP servers. And so this is getting a lot of momentum. Even Google announced a few weeks ago that they are going to be implementing MCP support. So, and then of course all your code editors support MCPs as well. It's really, really cool and exciting. So there's a lot of momentum here right now. If you want some resources on how to get into this, I recommend that you actually read the specification. It's very good, pretty digestible. I also have been writing a lot and producing a lot of videos on MCP specifically, but AI in general as well, on EpicAI.pro. That's my new thing. That's where all my focus is. Epic React is still really good. EpicWeb is still really good. As of right now, this very day, you're probably a web developer. You probably still should be building websites, but I want you to keep an eye out on this. And that's why I'm already starting to build up stuff on Epic AI so that you can be ready for when this becomes a thing that your boss comes and asks you about. I also am doing workshops on MCP as well. So if you want to subscribe and be notified when I list the next workshop and come along, it's pretty great. It's a lot of fun. So I have a bunch of posts that I'll just rattle off here. The game-changing potential of Model Context Protocol, how LLMs change onboarding, cost-effective. Man, the cost structure of this stuff is really great. One of the things that always held me back from getting into AI was, we're all just building LLM wrappers, and now I have to start worrying about abuse of my tokens and the costs and all of that stuff. MCP does not suffer from that problem at all, and that is very exciting. I also have the workshops, as I was talking about. You can come take a look at what that is like. We also have some problems we had to deal with, so solving tool overhead and security. I also think that MCP is a natural evolution of CLIs. That's kind of an interesting one you should take a look at too. And then this very talk, I also have a little bit more of an expansion. I go into a demo and everything. I have more time. So if you want to watch this talk again, but with actually like showing the code for the demo, then take a look at that. And then again, some stuff around the security aspects of this too. So lots and lots of stuff over there. Really, really cool. With that, I am all finished. So I just want to say you are great. Thank you very much for taking some of your time to listen to me. And I hope you have a wonderful day.